This really sums up my entire Simpsons experience in one image, which is
What?
great.
Wow.
So I created this image. So let me give you a little bit of backstory. This is from an episode where Homer ends up eating a handful of what are called Guatemalan insanity peppers at the chili cook-off.
They were
So you see it,
Guatemalan.
Guatemalan, yeah.
I love Guatemala.
That's specific. So you can see on the left where Homer's under the sign and he's popping one of the chilies. And then he eats a few of them and then he starts hallucinating. And then he goes on this really wild psychedelic experience for a good part of the episode. And to me, it was a great episode. And I also worked on the episode as well because it was so visually just captivating and just wild and like, and of course they were talking about, they were talking about psychedelics and all of that, except these were peppers, right? They found a way
Hmm.
to have Homer trip his balls off like by eating peppers. Like that's amazing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
I
so I
love
remember
that, like, one of the middle images is like Homer with just his pupils so dilated.
exactly. So this episode, I remember when I was working on it and I was doing some animation of Ned Flanders and all of his mouths and it was such a wild episode. And I thought this episode is going to be very popular and I love it. I know my friends are going to love it and it's just going to be around for a long time. People are going to talk about it a lot. And so fast forward 5, 6 years later when I am the director of illustration at Fox, and they were thinking, okay, we want to create a cell, which is essentially what an animation cell is. If you look at Homer, right, all the Homers, everything there's a
Mm.
separation between the background and Homer, right? And so those were called cells. It's short for celluloid. It was basically a piece of plastic that the character was drawn and painted on to go over the background, right? So if you think of
Mm.
like layers in Photoshop, that's what
So it gives it like
cells.
multiple dimensions when you're looking at it. So it's like one of those
Exactly.
framed art pieces someone would buy that
Yep.
has all that cool dimension to it.
Exactly. Exactly. So when they asked me if I had any ideas for a giant cell, like they wanted to make a big one. And I was like, and I totally was joking. I'm like, remember that time where Homer ate those peppers and like tripped his balls off? My boss was like, that's it. That's brilliant. Make that. And that was all I needed to be like, okay, I'm going to now create this epic composition that encapsulates this one episode that is so dear to my heart and dear to so many people's hearts, especially psychonauts. And
Hmm.
just create this thing from starting out with drawings, getting approval from Matt Groening, the creator of the show. He's very involved in the products and all that, and working all the way to the end with the cell creators. This image here I created entirely myself in Photoshop to give that cell kind of look.
Wow.
And then they created the whole thing, which was massive. It was 3, 4 feet across, and yeah. And so they gave me one as a gift. I'm like, hell yeah. And
Oh,
then
cool.
gave it to our friend Chris Hager, and it's hanging up in his kid's romper room.
Oh, I was wondering how Chris came to have this exact piece that you actually did.
Yes. Chris holds a lot of, he's creating a museum. He's told me this of my art. He owns more of
Oh,
my art than anyone else. So it has a very good home.
cool. Oh, I want to make that museum with him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well,
You got some too.
I do. I've got a few pieces in here. I love too that you honored the Mayan culture in Guatemala with the temple, like the pyramid in the background, um,
Yeah.
and it worked in
Yeah.
some
There's
of their
lots of cool little Easter eggs in here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Marge is like standing on the top of it, looking off into the cosmos, like she's
Yeah.
waiting for aliens, which is
Yep.
just very appropriate of all indigenous cultures.
Very appropriate. Yes. Hmm.
Cool. How many other times did Homer chirp his face off?
Wow. Okay, so there is quite a few episodes where there were large parts of the episodes where either it was Homer or um, Barney or Krusty, or in one situation, the entire town of Springfield was high on some kind of thing that Homer accidentally unleashed onto the town. So there's more than I think, but um, it's again, it's interesting how wherever the writers could put in a reference to drug use, they would. Of course, alcohol is a big thing in Springfield. Homer is a big drinker and all that, but there was an episode where Homer he gets medicinal marijuana, and
Ooh.
then he just becomes this total stoner, and he hangs out in the attic, and Otto, the stoner bus driver, would come over and hang out, and like Homer's eyes would be just bloodshot red, and of course Marge was like not okay with it, but he's like, hey, this is medicine, baby, I need this. And
Oh
so
my gosh.